What's up, weaves? Welcome back to Anime Lane. As always, I'm your host, Notorious, and joining me once again today, as always, is Shaun.
Hello.
It's been a while since we just chatted about like what we've been doing in our spare time.
Yeah.
Our last
A
one
little catch-ups.
the last one was I was looking back at this just before we recorded this. Um, was the Project Hail Mary episode, which was beginning of April, which means we recorded that mid to late March.
Yeah.
So it's been a
Because we
few
did that
months.
not long after seeing the movie, and we did that like right at the start of March.
Yeah, because we'd been to see Old Boy and Decision to Leave. I think like a couple of days before that.
Yeah, that was a busy week.
It was. So yeah, it's been like 3 months since we've done something
Yeah.
like that. Because we've had like other episodes we've focused on other things. We had the award show and all that sort of stuff. We talked about video game remakes. So I think we've both got plenty of stuff to catch up on.
Mm-hmm.
Of what we've watched. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know if there's anything you want to particularly kick it off with, or
I mean, I have like a sort of big marathon that I did, so I don't know if you want to start with that.
sure, we could start with Star Wars, because obviously, you know, May is May. It has the 4th of May in it, and you know, may the 4th be with you.
And funny little story that I do want to start off with my marathon is the fact that like I was originally not going to do anything for May the 4th.
Yeah, and then I watched Star Wars.
Yeah, you chimed in saying, "Oh, I'm gonna marathon the entire original trilogy," and being the Star Wars fan, I was not about to be one upped.
Yeah.
So I didn't. You watched the original trilogy that day.
Yeah, all in one day.
Yeah, I decided as my one up of that day, I do the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, which is insanity, just pure insanity.
Oh, it is absolute fucking insanity. Anyone that is not my kind of insane, I wouldn't recommend it. But I am my own kind of insane, so I did it, and I don't regret it.
I think
Even though it's the most fucking roller coaster of a trilogy you can imagine. Like, to give you like context, dear listener, I gave Phantom Menace a 6 out of 10 at the start of that day. Attack of the Clones a 3 out of 10 in the middle of that day, and then Revenge of the Sith full on 10 out of 10.
yeah.
So it was whiplash just multiple times throughout that day. I love the prequels as like an era, as like just a thing in universe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the movies apart from the third one that much. Because Phantom Menace is, I mean, it's the biggest problem with Phantom Menace is that it's just long stretches of
Nothing.
kind of boring. Yeah. There's nothing too much going on. It like, as a nerd, I have to watch it because I am the kind of person to like care about how did Obi-Wan meet Anakin? How did Palpatine become Chancellor? Why is Anakin so important? Which is kind of just established in that movie mainly. But large chunks of the actual movie's plot is not interesting. Don't you want to know about the Trade Federation and their dispute with the taxations of trade routes to the Mid-Rim? Isn't that fascinating to you, casual viewer?
Except that's still not even the focus of the movies, really. Is like, those are the pretenses, and then they immediately drop doing any of that as a focus, and it becomes about other things.
I mean, they're sort of linked to how the rest of that trilogy goes, but it's not done well.
No.
And it's not done very smoothly because like the whole Trade Federation bullshit is what feeds into eventually the separatist crisis of episode 2, which is why that whole thing happens. But like, it's also mainly because of other shit that was kind of showcased in Phantom Menace, but not really enough to be any focus of the movie because the Republic is in decline and there's a bunch of corruption, which is supposed to be the main part, but there's this overly complex bullshit with Sidious adding on as corrupt corporation bullshit to hijack it, and at the end of the day, it's just a puppet to start a war so that the Republic can have an army of clones that'll kill the Jedi eventually.
It's just Palpatine doing Palpatine things.
Yeah, good old Sheevesy, you know, just being Satan incarnate. None of it really comes to fruition until episode 3 though, and that's why it's the only one of those movies I'd say is actually good, because it means all the stuff that the previous 2 movies have basically been building towards actually fucking happens. And it's great. I love Revenge of the Sith. I think it's, on this rewatch, I think it might legit be my favorite one.
Of all of the Star Wars movies?
Of all of them.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I love it. I love it so much. It is peak cinema.
That's
But
it.
you know that because you also watched the prequels.
I did, but I started with the original trilogy. I watched them all in the one day. Started with the original, you know, New Hope, worked my way through Empire Strikes Back and then Return of the Jedi. And you know, you kind of, when you spend a lot of time away from the actual original movies, you kind of think like, you know, are they as good as I remember? Are they actually, you know, do they hold up? All this sort of stuff. And then
they
like,
start to be bogged down by everything sort of around
Yeah.
them and just sort of the idea of Star Wars as it is now.
and then you sit down and you watch them, specifically New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, and yeah, they're just that fucking good. And having like a completely different perspective on A New Hope this time was so good for rewatching it, because New Hope for me for a long time was the weakest one, just because like, if you're viewing it simply as the first in this trilogy, the sort of middle chapter of a bigger like 6-episode thing, the central piece of a 9-episode, anyway,
We're gonna ignore the sequels until we get to them.
yeah, it can be very like, I don't know how to put it. It's the one that comes off the worst simply because of the amount of retcons they had to do between like
Star Wars in 1977 is a very different beast to Star Wars now.
yeah. Whereas I went into it sort of just looking at it as Star Wars, not Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope, not, well, you can, but I chose not to this time. You can't really watch it in its original theatrical state. You kind of are stuck with the special editions, which neither
I'm
here nor
very
there,
angry.
that's not the point of what we're talking about, but
I know.
I still went into it trying to think like, what would the perspective on this have been had you sat down in a theater in 1977? There were no sequels. This was just Star Wars. And what I came away with was, wow, a lot of people gripped onto this in a very specific way, but as the fucking history fan, Japanese cinema fan that I am, I sat down and watched it and went, fuck, Lucas had the sauce. Because he made an incredible film that parallels not just Kurosawa's storytelling and filmmaking techniques at times, but Japanese history at a very specific turning point, where it had transitioned from a feudalistic society into an imperialistic society, and was expanding its reach outward from there. And that's a really fascinating way to look at the original Star Wars movie, because it then brings a whole new perspective to like the Jedi and to the Sith, to the Empire, to Tatooine as like a functional location within the narrative, and all the other places that they visit, like Alderaan and all this sort of stuff. Well, they don't visit Alderaan. Alderaan gets a lot of smithereens.
Yeah, but it's Alderaan serves its purpose by being
Yeah,
a target.
by being a target. Um, and so it makes it such an interesting rewatch because it gave me this whole new perspective of like, wow, intentionally or not, there's something really interesting about that parallel to a very specific time and set of history. Because you can take a lot of films and say, oh, they parallel history, but in a general sense of like all these sort of things happen all the time in many different places. You've seen it in World War One, World War Two, whatever. But that very specific point in Japanese history is very specific, and it would go on to be a very influential point in history to, World War Two as well, and sort of our build up to modernization. And okay, I'm getting a bit too far away from like
I am gonna sort of bring you back into Star Wars
I'm
a little
pulling
bit,
out
but
to
like, no.
how history as a tapestry for the larger picture is a fascinating thing, but I need to zoom back in. And so I had a whole new appreciation for Star Wars as a movie on its own, because I think as part of the original trilogy, Jedi's quirks aside, it kind of does come off the worst because there's so many things that Lucas had to go over with Tipex and sort of scribble in new bits of information between New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. But then you watch Empire Strikes Back and this is arguably up there as one of the greatest movies of all time because it sets up so many interesting things. It has so many great reveals that again, what would it have been like to sit in a theater in 1981 or 1980 sorry
1980,
and see that unfold and see the reveal of Darth Vader being Luke's dad, being Anakin.
I mean, it would have been fucking mind-blowing is what
Yeah.
I can only imagine. But I can see a version of myself from that time period, and still being a big fucking nerd that I am, I would immediately be going, but didn't Obi-Wan fucking say fucker lied to us?
But that's the point, is that Obi-Wan lied.
Yeah, that's the point, yeah.
I also find a small anecdote that I always wonder if it's true, that after Empire came out, Lucas spoke to a child psychologist to ask about that reveal and that bit of information, and that led to, in Return of the Jedi, Luke asking Yoda about it and to confirm it, because what the child psychologist told Lucas is that for that to be for Luke to take that in, for it to be a believable bit of information, it needs to also then come from a trusted source, someone who Luke admires, looks up to, trusts, and has deep faith in. And so that leads to the scene with Yoda in Return of the Jedi. Yeah. Anecdotally, I don't know if that's true. And it couldn't be
Obi-Wan because Obi-Wan's a fucking liar.
Obi-Wan's a liar and he's dead.
I mean, he's a ghost, but he's already lied at this point. It's not going to be as believable.
So yeah, I always find that fascinating, and I wonder how true that actually is.
I've heard that anecdote as well, and I want to believe it's true, but I don't think I've ever seen an actual source on that beyond I don't know, just a trivia YouTube video that's also saying it's an anecdote from some other vague source. So can't verify, but I want to believe it is, because I do know that Lucas, for all his faults, did give a shit about the overarching story, and especially the series' accessibility to the younger audience as well. Because as much as I love this series, this has been the truth from it from the start. Star Wars is primarily for 12-year-olds.
Yes.
Random, or 10-year-olds, preteen-ish, little kids on one end of the scale. It can be enjoyed by families, obviously. It's not specifically a kids series, but
it was
primarily
the original Harry Potter.
Yeah, the better Harry Potter.
The better Harry Potter, yeah.
The Harry Potter, which for all its faults, the series itself isn't just problematic in an existence point of view. That's a whole other discussion that we're probably going to talk about at some point
later.
Yeah. But Yeah, I would absolutely believe that Lucas like decided to go to like a child psychologist. Was
Hmm.
like, so how do I get this information across? Like that isn't traumatic to a kid first off,
Yeah.
and like it's just like digestible, and so that whole Yoda scene came about. And when you do know about the anecdote, it makes that scene in the narrative make a lot more
Hmm.
sense.
Yeah.
Because in universe, Luke has been training with Yoda for like 3 years. He's had 3 years to process this whole thing, so it's kind of weird that he's now just asking, like, hey, is this actually true?
Yeah. um Sorry, I was just gonna mention the scene at the end of like Empire where the whole film had kind of been building up of like there is another, you know, that line at that point in time it wasn't mentioned that Luke has like a twin. It was never that. It was just that there is another person who has the same level of force capabilities as Luke. They could be the next
Mhm.
force messiah, the next force Jesus, the
Hey,
next,
that thing hadn't even been fully codified until
yeah,
Phantom Menace either.
the next God Emperor of the Force.
Fucking, I can't wait till I watch Dune like in full and or read Dune and then just sort of go, oh yeah, this is just where Star Wars got all of its shit.
um, but you know, it builds up to that throughout the movie, and there's not really like any true hints across most of it as to who that could be. It's just sort of offhandedly mentioned between Obi-Wan and Yoda before Luke sets off, and I think Yoda laments about it a bit at some other point. But then at the end of the movie, when Luke's in like his most mortal peril that we've ever seen him so far, he calls out to Leia. And at that point, and when he calls that out, you just think, you know, he's calling for his friend. He's desperate. He's thinking of the people he cares most about. But then it cuts to
The
Leia.
reason he's there.
But then it cuts to Leia, and she has a reaction. She tells Han where she thinks Luke is, or that she hears Luke, and they show up and rescue him. And you're like, oh shit, this might be the most cinema that Lucas has ever achieved across the original trilogy, by very subtly putting across that Leia has some kind of force abilities. Obviously, force sensitivity wasn't a thing yet. That was still fucking decades off.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of it was definitely like probably a thing, but again, with knowing Lucas, he probably hadn't fully codified it until he absolutely fucking had to. The thing about this is, though, is like with all like the hints of like there being another and all that, there's still a chance that this was completely by accident. I have to say,
possibly, but still, it you know, it.
Yeah,
I like it as a
Good.
as a piece of the film. There's probably a better
Canonically,
way.
like it does still work like that. It's absolutely the intent, and again, I want to say that Lucas doesn't codify things until he absolutely has to, because again, there's probably still possibility of an echo of that idea. That is why he did it like that. But I've also heard like anecdotes that like around this time, maybe earlier, that like the whole there is another thing was supposed to be a completely different character and a version of Return of the Jedi, because for the longest while the original plan was to have Luke actually fall to the dark side.
Oh, okay.
That's why he acts kind of dark sidey at the beginning of Return of the Jedi when he's using like force choke and stuff, and he's like dressed in black.
Okay.
Yeah, I hate that I'm ruining this for you. I'm so sorry.
Nah, I just thought Luke had that drip on, you know.
I mean, it is good drip.
It also doesn't help that like they practically codify that as part of the Jedi look in the prequels.
Yeah, the whole desert rat sort of thing that Obi-Wan had. That's just the Jedi look now, which
and that just becomes Anakin's like default character skin as well.
Black
robes.
No, he wears a darker shade because he's gonna be evil, and Lucas sometimes just doesn't believe in subtlety.
Yeah, no, he doesn't.
He knows writers that use subtext, and he does think they're all cowards.
But it's one of those things that, like, whether intentional or not, it's one of those things that works, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. Like I absolutely still read it like that. Like whether that was the intent on
Mhm.
when they filmed it or wrote it or not, just because that's something you can do with Star Wars. You can look at these movies from the in-universe canonical nerd way, and they work the way they do. Or you can view them in like the actual real world. What were they thinking when they actually wrote this?
Yeah.
And what was their actual intent on like the day of the set or whatever?
Mhm.
Because it ties back into how you watched A New Hope like
Mhm.
this time, and the way you did is like I think genuinely is the best way to watch it.
Mhm.
Like as someone who is too fucking steeped in the lore for their own good, and like far too obsessed over it that I can just nitpick every single conflict within like the lore or whatever and
Yeah.
everything that gets changed. The best way to watch A New Hope is to just forget all of that.
Mhm.
Just put it all the way out of your head. Pretend it's 1977 and you're watching this for the first time, and you get the best version of the movie, which is a samurai western inspired like sci-fi flick that also has elements of fairy tale
Mhm.
instead of the again the middle chapter of a 9 episode saga,
Yeah.
which kind of conflicts with a bit of the tone of the rest of the series.
Yeah. And it's only something that the more it's got expanded upon has become more and more like, you know, they had something real good in the original trilogy, and they just kept making more, and every single time it has been just a decline of diminishing returns consistently. Like, yes,
Yeah.
the sequels made a metric fuck ton of money. However, the reception to them wasn't stellar, to say the least.
And it's only gotten worse over time.
Yeah. Whereas the prequels have kind of had a renaissance. However, you know, it should really only be for Revenge of the Sith, and even at that, like, it's a good movie, but you know.
Yeah. I contest as someone who's absolutely in that age group that's not that like loves the prequels because I was a fucking child when they were coming out. Uh I think the general consensus is that Revenge of the Sith is the one that's like considered a good movie,
Mhm.
even if that's a bit contentious to some people. I think it is on the whole a good movie.
Yeah.
Whereas like episodes 1 and 2, if you like it, it's gonna be more nostalgia based than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like Phantom Menace, but it's got fucking problems, and I already talked about how it's kind of just a boring movie most of the time.
Mm. But I need to come back to Return of the Jedi, because
Okay.
yeah, all this build-up of certain things across, you know, especially Empire Strikes Back, where
Yep,
Leia is
no.
a very, across both movies,
Yep,
very independent, very self-sufficient character. In fact, she rescues the gang out of situations more often than they do.
They get her out of the cell, and then she's immediately the one leading the charge out of the Death Star
Yeah.
because they're fucking idiots.
She is the most competent person in the room most of the time. And then you get to Return of the Jedi, and it is just a massive character assassination for her.
because the chuds of the 1980s got to like the writing room or like Lucas or whatever and was like, fine, I'll make her stupid or like useless now because you're all offended that a woman is taking this much charge.
Yeah. And then you get stuff like Slave Leia, and, you know, just her having like a very diminished role in the story and things that are going on overall, and then taking a very background, like, I don't know how to describe it, but like the way that things are revealed between her and Luke and her reaction to it, and it's all very,
She's very passive in like the
Yeah.
overarching story because like Luke's whole side of like the family dynamic and like facing Vader and stuff. You'd think that when it's almost as if they didn't plan it at first, but like you'd think if Leia was really supposed to be the other kid, she would also be there confronting Vader
Mm-hmm.
and like dealing with that, but she's not because the movie's too fully focused on Luke instead.
Yeah. It's like even when Luke tells her, you know, that they're siblings, her response is like, I've always known somehow, and I'm like, that is not how Leia from New Hope and Empire would actually respond. Like, she would not
Yeah, like, that's
respond like
bullshit.
this. Like, maybe she would say something about having an inkling or something like that, but like at the same time, she wouldn't be so passive about it either. She would have a much more kind of boisterous reaction, I guess, is the best way I could think
There'd
to
be a lot more
describe it.
what?
Yeah. But yeah, you know, there's also the whole structural issues to Jedi too, where it's a bit long because a lot of it's just nothing going on, and they're in the forest with the Ewoks, and like, not to tread on the old debate, but they do kind of just suck the life out of the movie.
I have too much nostalgia for the Ewoks to ever be objective on this, so
Christ.
don't Jesus Christ me. I think it's fair. They're adorable. Kid me loved them. They were my teddy bears. I wish they were Wookiees in hindsight.
That would make more sense if this had taken place on Kashyyyk. That would have made way more sense.
Yeah. It's almost like that was the original plan, but Lucas couldn't get enough tall actors to like fit in the suits, so they just couldn't do it. And also other things about technical limitations. I'm not sure how much of that was just bullshit,
Yeah.
but so instead he decided to get Ewoks, which is just Wookiee backwards.
Mhm.
And they're tiny. And they defeat the Emperor's best legion of stormtroopers all by themselves. Isn't it adorable that like they can just do that? The technological empire got defeated by sticks and stones.
Sure. I mean, like,
It's a bit too fairy tale, I know.
yeah. But yeah, original trilogy fucking rocks. And then I tried to watch the prequels, and I was gonna do them all in one day, and then I watched Phantom Menace, and it just absolutely sapped the life out of me.
Sliced you in half like Darth Maul, didn't it?
It really did. Just, oh my god. I gave it a 5 out of 10. I was a little more harsh on it. I was a little more harsh on them overall.
A little more harsh. I gave it like a 6 out of 10.
Yeah,
so
I gave
it's
it
like really just 1 point.
I gave it a 5, and then you gave a 3 to Attack the Clones?
Attack of the Clones. Yeah, because I mean, there's no saving Attack of the Clones. It's just
No.
a crap movie.
I gave it 2. There's no redeeming it, and the pacing issues are fucking even worse than Phantom Menace. Revenge of the Sith is good though, and I gave it an 8.
Attack of the Clones was like the shortest review you've done in a while on Letterboxd, I have to say.
Yeah. I didn't technically review it, I think is what I even said.
No, you did. You just said the review is fuck you.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was like, I quoted Anakin, I don't like sand, and then I said, and I don't like this fucking movie. That's the review. Fuck you.
It gets the point across. I
Yeah.
don't think I could have said it better. I went on a bit more of a tangent on all of these movies. And I basically came to the same conclusion of this movie's just bad.
I kind of wrote like a decent chunk for most of them, especially like the original trilogy. I put quite a bit of effort into reviewing those. But like Attack of the Clones, I couldn't muster anything that I wanted to put my energy into actually like saying, which is fine. I made up for it when I reviewed Revenge of the Sith.
Oh yeah, big time.
But yeah, I didn't watch the sequels. I was gonna, and then I opted to not do that.
I took that burden on by myself.
You did. You did.
And like, I want to talk about my thoughts on the original trilogy just quickly before I get to the sequels, because there's like a 50-50 chance the sequels will just be a full fucking tangent, and I'm trying not to do that. But I gave every single original trilogy movie a 10 out of 10 because I'm a sucker for them. Even like Return of the Jedi, which I recognize is definitely the most flawed of the three.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely the one with the most like compromises and limitations, we'll call them,
Yeah.
because it's pretty well known at this point that Lucas had no idea what he actually wanted to do for Return of the
Yeah.
Jedi. There was a whole different movie that was going to be made originally, where they go to what was originally an early version of Coruscant, which was just called the Imperial City at the time, really going into the fantasy thing. That's where they'd meet Palpatine, either in his palace or in some sort of dark side lava cave or whatever. There's beautiful Ralph McQuarrie artwork on this from the time. There was the idea that Luke would maybe fall to the dark side and it'd have a darker ending and all that sort of stuff. Eventually, Lucas went, "Nah, man, I gotta sell toys. I gotta make this one for the kids. We gotta sell more toys."
Yeah.
And I don't think I want to do the dark ending. I don't even know if I want to do sequels after this one. So we got the movie we got, along with an added Jabba sequence at the start because Harrison Ford also didn't know if he wanted to do this movie. So we had a whole thing with Han getting captured at the end of Empire, which you can basically read as the Schrodinger's Harrison script. I do like that sequence, but it is just such a non sequitur to the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I love Return of the Jedi so much because there is still a lot of strengths with it. All of Luke's confrontation with the Emperor and Vader, I think, is still great. The whole final like fight and sequence on like the second Death Star of Luke and Vader is up there as one of my favorite parts of the entire saga. Ian McDiarmid is always great in everything he does. Even in the prequels, he's like the best part of them, so you know. That's just always perfect. The biggest flaw is, like you said, Leia is way too passive for her role in the story. If they had rewritten it like a bit more, they should have had Leia be more of a focus just in the whole thing.
Yeah.
Maybe they could have even maybe done a thing where like she finds out between movies and she's gotten some training under her belt for Return of the Jedi, so that confrontation actually does have the both of them. 80s Lucas didn't want to do that though, so we've got the movie that we've got. But I still love it. And I couldn't not give it a 10 out of 10 because I'm a sucker. And then there was the sequels.
Yeah.
I liked the first two for a while after they came out. I'm not gonna pretend I didn't. But time has not been kind. And even more specifically, the last film in that trilogy has not been kind to them retroactively. I think I can sum up my central problem with all three of them is that nothing changes. Nothing's been pushed forward, just in the scale of the universe. It's been 30 years and we're just back to exactly the same conflict that we're at with Rebels and the Empire, even though logically it should be more of an equal conflict now that the rebellion turned into the Republic and the Empire's devolved into a sort of extremist terrorist faction, really. But no, the Republic gets destroyed immediately. We learn nothing about it just so we can go back to a fucking Rebels Empire conflict that sucks the life out of the rest of the movies. I like Rey. Rey's a fun character. I'm gonna fight anyone who says she's a Mary Sue because like every other character in this series is a Mary Sue if you think about it. But like she's not really given much to do in terms of her character other than the stupid shit they do in the last one where they make her a Palpatine retroactively. I went on whole rants on like Letterboxd and I was so exhausted by the time I had finished watching Rise of Skywalker. You got the brunt of that, by the way, sorry.
I think I wasn't really paying attention at that point. I was like, I'm gonna let you do this.
Yeah, I screamed in our Discord channel for like the entirety of that movie, talking about how dumb it was, how I hated whatever scene was coming up, and I was just, by the time I got to actually getting it all down in a letterbox review, I just went, I don't feel like it. I don't like this movie. I'm done. And I didn't intend to watch The Mandalorian and Grogu in the cinema when I started this marathon. It just sort of happened.
Yeah.
So I kind of ended this marathon by watching that in the cinema. It's meh. It's, I gave it a 4 out of 10. It's a few more extra episodes of the show, but it starts off fine. The first third, I think, is a really actually what I would call a good episode of the series, or a good couple episodes of the series. But then, do you care about spoilers?
Not
There's not much to spoil.
particularly.
But okay, so like halfway through the movie, Din gets kidnapped by like some bounty hunter for these like relatives of Jabba the Hutt. They popped up in Book of Boba Fett. They're the twins.
Yeah, I know who they are, unfortunately.
Yeah. So he gets captured by like them. He fights in a pit for a bit, but then the movie shifts focus into Grogu being the kid that has to go off and save his dad, and and if the rest of the saga is like primarily targeted to 12-year-olds, this felt like it was the part of the movie that was specifically targeted to 5-year-olds that were brought into the cinema by like their parents.
Oh.
And I lost all interest like the moment it happened, and it's half the movie. Up until like the last 10 minutes, that's the movie, really. Jesus. Other than like a pit fight scene with like Din and this like sort of big monster that's very sort of similar to like the trash compactor monster in A New Hope, but like, you know, sized up a fuck ton.
I thought you were gonna say Rota, Jabba's son, who's his own man.
Oh yeah,
that's all I keep hearing about him.
He is. That's his character. He's his own guy. To be fair, he is like the best character in that movie. I'm gonna be honest, which I didn't expect from Rota the fucking Hutt.
Yeah.
Who was a last time we saw him, he was a fucking child in Clone Wars.
Yeah, I've seen people posting those pictures of him and Ahsoka, just so much.
Yeah. He's the worst part of the Clone Wars movie, and yet now he's the best part of this movie. So what a fucking glow up. But like, he's forgotten about at this part of the movie. He's basically just written out. Because again, the rest of it is focusing on Grogu doing cute little Grogu things while he saves his dad and tries to stop him from being poisoned. And this, like, the last third of this movie is dedicated to Grogu on this swamp planet. It was almost giving Muppets at a certain point. I was expecting Kermit to come out at a certain point, but like, the whole point is he has to find a cure because Din's been poisoned by like the creature he fought.
This is The Last of Us. This literally happens.
Yes.
In The Last of Us.
Yes, it is. With a character that's not as interesting as Ellie. But like, so it's just him. He has to like, the whole point in this movie is that it rests on stakes that they're never gonna fucking commit to. Yeah. Because I never believed for a second Din was actually gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
So for like about 40 minutes, you're kind of just sitting there watching Grogu do cute little Grogu things. And eventually Din comes back and everything's fine. Jesus and then Christ. The twins die because they get bombed by the rebels that were helping Din.
I have seen that actually. I've seen people talking about that online. I'm like, oh, that's kind of fucked up.
Nah, it's cool. Sigourney Weaver's still that bitch, so you know. I wish she was in the movie for more than 3 scenes.
Oh, for the amount I'd seen her in the press, I was like, oh, she must be in this like a fair chunk, because she's in like all the press clips.
She's in 3 scenes. 2 of them are basically the same scene of go get our thing and you didn't get our thing, and that's it.
My god.
She doesn't reappear again until like the end of the movie where she airstrikes the huts. Which again, it kind of makes up for the last two scenes because that is something I believe Sigourney Weaver would do in this universe.
Oh, God.
It's such a nothing movie, and I'm just flabbergasted that this is the movie that's bringing Star Wars back to the cinema like 6 years after,
Yeah.
7 years after Rise of Skywalker.
It was always weird to me that they were going to do this with The Mandalorian, and specifically going with a title like The Mandalorian and Grogu. That's putting emphasis on a very odd part of The Mandalorian. And handing the keys to the big return to the theatrical showings of Star Wars to Jon fucking Favreau, of all people.
And Dave Filoni, he's in the movie.
Of course he's in the movie. Did he have his fucking stupid hat on?
Yeah,
of course he had
like,
it. Jesus Christ.
When they're at like the start of the second act, and like there's an entire shot dedicated to just showing him in like the Rebel base as his stand-in character. That's just him with a Star Wars name. There's a shot dedicated to him, just like he doesn't say anything. It's like 5 seconds. He's just staring at them talking, and it's just him in his fucking hat in Rebel pilot gear.
Fuck's sake.
And then he shows up again in the airstrike scene at the end.
Oh my God.
I wanted to I kind of wanted to throw a fit, but it was in the cinema, so I just stopped. I just didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Because I'm a sane adult.
I'm trying to think of how to word this, because I don't want to sound like all the people that attacked Kathleen Kennedy for leading Star Wars because simply she was a woman. That was all that was about. I want to stress that, because I look up at a poster every fucking day that sits above my desk of Back to the Future. She is or was, I don't know if her track record now really stands up, but was an incredible producer of movies. I'm going to
say my piece here. The 90 to 95% of the hate for Kathleen Kennedy is complete fucking bullshit.
No, 100%. That's what I'm saying. It's just
made like fantastic decisions. Not always the best decision, but I think on the whole, she was the right person to take over. And we got to remember, Lucas specifically chose her to take over.
That's sort of what I'm getting to. I think it's her big mistake for the sequels was not having one consistent person at least writing the story, heading up the creative of what is the direction that this is going in, what is the purpose of each movie, what is the purpose of bringing back the legacy characters, what is it this world looks like now. There was none of that. It was J.J. Abrams' box of mysteries and other people having to then deal with that, and then someone got kicked off and J.J. Abrams came back and he's notoriously shit at opening his box of mysteries.
Colin Trevorrow, I think?
It was Colin Trevorrow, yeah. He did the Jurassic World movies. They bombed. He got taken off of... it wasn't called Rise of Skywalker at the time, but...
It was called Duel of the Fates, and I'm not going to distract from you. I'm just going to say my point here. That would have been shit too. I'm sorry.
No,
Everyone
I'm not saying that
would have been a better movie.
No.
I think that would have been shit too. That's not directed at you. That's directed to just the fucking fan base. Because I see every couple of months people being like, "Oh, we should have gotten the Colin Trevorrow movie. That would have been way better than what we got." And then I read like the plot points, and I'm like, "No, it fucking wouldn't. We'd still all fucking hate it."
My main point kind of being that like, Kathleen Kennedy is an incredible producer. She was the right person to take over Star Wars. She made a bunch of mistakes. That's liable for people to do. People are human. Lucas made plenty of mistakes. That's just his thing.
We could go a whole series talking about those mistakes, as we kind of have right now just in this episode. Yeah. But...
So, you have Lucas, the actual person who created it, leading it for a long time. He hands it to Kathleen Kennedy. She does a very admirable job doing all the sort of expanded media, leading it. Disney buys it over, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, she took over when Disney took over, right? Am I getting that mixed up?
Yeah, she was like Lucas's chosen successor, basically, to bridge the gap between the old era and the new Disney ownership era.
Yeah. So she did an admirable job kind of keeping the expanded universe going for a while before Disney opted to just sort of cut everything down to a very strict canon and you know, she then, you know, made
pros and cons on that
Yeah,
that
pros
I
and
could discuss,
cons.
but we won't.
She made very admirable decisions and creative choices. It's human error to not sort of, you know, like I said, the big mistake was just not having one person overseeing what was actually going on, what the direction was. To have someone that caliber of a producer, because, you know, she produced Back to the Future, she produced Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, I believe. She was on a bunch of different things. She was very close to
She's
Spielberg.
very prolific.
Yeah, she's prolific. She's you know, the producer of the 80s outside of Spielberg. To then hand the keys to Mr. Toybox Filoni, who has no eye for anything except Star Wars and his toy box of OCs, is baffling to me. A lot of people lauded this decision, but all I saw were the immediate flaws, because, like I said, Kathleen Kennedy, incredibly prolific producer. She knows cinema. She's worked with some of the best people in the industry. She's produced the movies that are the most successful, that we still talk about to this day. She has an eye for cinema, that's undeniable. Filoni is a Star Wars nerd, beginning, end. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. You can't hand the keys to a fandom to a fan. You're just never gonna have it work out. That's sort of been showcased already, because you saw what JJ did with The Force Awakens. He just fucking rehashed New Hope. But also, the Star Trek trilogy, I kind of like those, but man, did he fuck up a lot.
Yeah. I can't call myself a Star Trek fan because I haven't watched any of the shows. It's on my list. It's eternally on my list. I gotta get to Next Generation specifically because that's the one I'm the most interested in. Maybe Voyager as well, and is it Deep Space Nine?
Deep Space Nine, yeah.
Yeah. Less so the original series, but I'm sure I'll get to it at some point if I start on this train. But I have seen the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. I like those movies, but I recognize they're not really like. Mostly, I mean, they are a little bit, but they're a lot more of Star Wars, Star Trek, you know?
Yeah.
They're like a lot more action heavy and stuff. I think Beyond, the last one, was maybe closer a little bit in theming to what the original series was like. And I do like that, but I recognize it's a very different kind of Star Trek. Because he was basically just making Star Wars when he didn't have Star Wars yet.
Yeah, he was pitching that he should do Star Wars. That was his show reel for I should do Star Wars.
To the point where he added R2-D2 as like a bit of debris in some of the scenes in Star Trek. That's real.
Of course he did.
Force Awakens has come out, and like, I think as a movie of itself, it's fine. I gave it another 6. I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's just terrible as a starting point, as we can now see, because then Rian Johnson, who can make great movies, fantastic director. I love basically everything I've seen of him that isn't Last Jedi, and I even liked Last Jedi like for a while after it came out, but like I've sort of sullied on it because it just feels like such another big cog in a trilogy that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think I agree with where Luke went at this point, but whatever. That's a whole other debate. But yeah, we've now taken that idea that it should belong to the fans and given it to Filoni, who, again, he's done some good stuff, but it is amazing to see just like how much of his fucking toy box favored OCs have kind of just infected the whole saga now. It was cute when it was just cartoons.
Yeah.
He could do that. It was fine. When he was just fleshing out like the prequel era, doing Rebels and whatever was happening in that like series. I haven't seen it yet. I'm sorry, but it was nice. But now that it's like main Star Wars, like it's in the actual movies, like it's Mandalorian and stuff, it's kind of suffocating how much everything now has to link in with everything else. And oh, don't worry, we've got Luke at the end of Mandalorian season 2, but don't worry, we're gonna have Ahsoka be a big part of that show as well. And then we're gonna give her own show, which is also in the Mandoverse, and every season of Mando is now gonna be a backdoor pilot to like 7 other shows that's happening. And to link it back to Mandalorian and Grogu, it felt like the ultimate culmination of Disney's finally just milking this section of the universe for all it's worth, because they hit one thing that was good. They did one thing that was great, and now they're just gonna milk it for all it's worth. It's why I'm so glad that Andor was such a closed-off thing that had a definite end that they couldn't milk anymore, because they already killed the character off in a movie that was already made.
It's also like, you know, again, Tony Gilroy, not a Star Wars guy. He doesn't have the reverence and deep love for the franchise. He's just a guy who likes storytelling, who's good at telling stories. Like that's his thing. He had no real intimacy or familiarity with it when he was brought onto Rogue One, and then he made Andor, and like arguably the best parts of Star Wars have kind of been made by people who aren't super closely related with Star Wars. Mando aside, but Mando's completely lost its identity the longer it's gone on. Is my big problem with it.
Mando was so good in season 1. I remember I felt so energized that like, oh yeah, we're finally gonna start getting parts of the universe that hasn't really been focused on anymore, and it's gonna get different vibes. And then it just became what it is now, which is overly familiar, adding too many legacy characters, and Filoni playing with his fucking toys.
Yep.
It's why Andor, the reason why Andor is so good because of all the things you mentioned, but also because like he was able, it meant that mindset would let him fully delve into the actual realities of a rebel insurgency against a fascist empire, which is a part of Star Wars I've always wanted to see fully explored, but no one that was too overly familiar with Star Wars would do. Because it wouldn't fit all the vibe or like the fun, like lightweight atmosphere, whatever. Tony told all that to go fuck itself. Tony said all that to go fuck itself, and to bring it back to Kathleen Kennedy for a second, she was with him every step of the way, encouraging that. I remember there was like people saying like, oh, Andor's gonna get strangled and like put tied down because people like Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy are gonna try and, you know, rip it from all its unique. And then like Tony had to come out and say, no, she was actively encouraging me to do it like this and like just break away from the mold.
It's incredible the disconnect some fans can have, because like saying like, oh, Andor's gonna get strangled for you know being this thing, and it's like by Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm, the people who had to greenlight this, who had to review the scripts,
the people that are like
all the final edits, the people who were like, yeah, let's put this out. And
the people who are marketing it,
like, is that sort of it goes for all fandoms, but Star Wars are a special kind of breed of it, where there is no connection to reality, where the enemy is so fictitiously in their mind that it doesn't work in any functional sense of reality.
There's still like a noteworthy part of the fandom that still genuinely believes that Mark Hamill hates like Rian Johnson and despises everything that happened with The Last Jedi, and like has a personal vendetta on it. And like everything I've seen about Mark Hamill, and like even just like because I follow him on like social media and stuff as well, tells me he may have had some disagreements on Luke's like direction, but like he has stated multiple times, because people kept bringing it up to him, and like people kept trying to like force their opinion of it on him, just being like, no, eventually I went with what Ryan went with, and I think the movie is fine. I like it. I don't dislike The Last Jedi at all. But there are still fans that refuse to accept that and think, oh, he just has to say that because he doesn't want to cut any ties or anything. He really hates it. Trust me, bro. it's such a weird, confusing time to be like a Star Wars fan and not be insane.
Yeah.
Because as someone who now doesn't like the sequels just at all, I think it's definitely the weakest era in
Hmm.
the entire saga. I'm not against seeing more of it. Like when the news came around that like there was going to be a Ben Solo movie that was almost like so super close to
Hmm.
being greenlit. Even like Kathleen Kennedy was again pushing for it and wanted to like see it happen. It was only until Bob Iger himself was like, nah,
Yeah.
or any other higher ups at Disney were like, nah, we don't want to do it.
Because that
I
was
was so disappointed because I want to see that movie.
mhm.
I want to see more of this part of the universe. I want to see it more fleshed out.
Yeah. That was it Steven Soderbergh that was heading that up?
Ben Solo movie.
I remember it had
Hunt
like
for Ben Solo. Yeah, it was.
yeah, because I remember like seeing his name and be like, that would have been an insane. Because again, someone who isn't traditionally seen as like a sci-fi sort of like, you know, Star Warsy kind of guy. It's like that's the people you bring in to a long-established franchise to spice it up and to make it more interesting, to explore the different elements of the universe that other people aren't necessarily focusing on at that point in time. You know, Filoni just goes in and rattles his toy box and sees what falls out for that specific project that he's working on, and you know,
Yeah.
sorry, I feel like I'm giving Filoni a lot of shit here, but
It's been so funny to see him go. It has been so funny as someone in the fandom to see him go from the golden boy who can't do anything wrong in the franchise to now being like, okay, you got to do something new and like different here,
mhm.
Filoni. You can't just keep going on the same old tracks again, you fucking child. But yeah, I was so disappointed when I heard that the Hunt for Ben Solo was a thing that was going to happen and then got rejected because I like Ben
Mhm.
Solo. I like the characters of the sequels. I think one of my biggest problems was that they weren't developed enough in their own movies.
Yeah.
And it's why like I'm still sort of interested in whatever the Rey movie or trilogy is going to be, even though it's in limbo and I don't know, it could just be cancelled at this point or
Yeah.
effectively cancelled. Like the fucking KOTOR remake, which is still kind of happening, except no one knows anything about it.
Yeah. And then we're getting a third KOTOR game as well.
A spiritual successor,
Spiritual successor. Same difference, really.
which was announced, and then they also announced we're still finding applicants
Yeah.
to work on it, which means it's not coming out for another 5-10 years.
Yep.
So there's no point in being excited about it.
No.
Star Wars is in a pretty sucky position right now, not gonna lie.
I feel like that's just a thing you can say about a lot of franchises at the moment. You know? So I feel like you can say the
Don't
same
mention
about
Doctor Who.
Star Trek. There hasn't been really any flagship shows that aren't reliant on legacy characters. You know, Picard, titularly about fucking Picard. Strange New Worlds is a prequel with some guy playing a young Captain Kirk.
Sure.
So
Didn't they already do a fucking prequel story with Captain Kirk in the fucking movies? I know it was a different timeline, but
it was a different timeline, and it's technically not a prequel either. It's confusing.
okay, sure. I'm not a Star Trek fan. I don't care.
But yeah, there's not been like a big actual show from Star Trek in a long time.
While, yeah.
Enterprise might have been the actual last. No, there was another one after
Not a
that.
kid-centric one.
There's Lower Decks, which is
Starfleet Academy.
Starfleet Academy. Yeah, that's the kid one. There's also Lower Decks, which is the adult animated comedy.
Yeah. All I know is that there's a cat that says "Godspeed, you crazy fucks."
Yeah, and they censored it, and it sounded like they were saying something else.
Something way worse, and then
Yeah.
like to the point where the actual like anime or whatever was like, "Oh no, no,
No,
no."
no. Discovery, that's the
Happy.
other one.
Ah, okay.
Um, but yeah, there hasn't really been anything that's spiritually in the essence of Star Trek, I think. A lot of things have been too Star Warsy, I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah, and I think, speaking as a Star Wars fan, Star Trek probably shouldn't be Star Wars.
Yeah. It's the same thing with Stargate. Ever since Universe, there's just been nothing. And Universe got cancelled. So that never even had an ending. That just finished. Which sucks. They cancelled it as it was starting to like properly pick up. But yeah, there's a lot of franchises that are just sort of stuck in a weird state.
To go with sci-fi like one last time, Doctor Who is in quite the beautiful clusterfuck right now.
We potentially could be in the wilderness years too.
Yeah, at the time of recording, there's been an announcement of an announcement that's going to happen at some point in the next week or two. There has been some reports that like the Christmas special may be delayed, may be fucking cancelled.
How do you delay a Christmas special? That's got a specific...
That's why people are like, maybe they mean fucking cancelled. The thing is, though, I wanted to bring this up with you, like, just in our own time, but, like, as, like, a thing. But the thing is, the only source people are talking about on those reports specifically is the fucking Sun. So it could very easily be bullshit.
Okay, this is a slight tangent to this, but the last 2 months, has been a whirlwind of just stuff politically in the UK as well. As stuff like Doctor Who going on as well now. That trying to actually get a solid source on information that people constantly post. You see all the political news accounts constantly posting the information, and they'll cite their source, but problematically, the most often I see is that they either cite the actual Sun directly or the political editor for the Sun. And if you're not from the UK, you might be thinking, well, that is a source. You know, the Sun's a newspaper, they're a political editor. The Sun is the very definition of a shit rag.
It is trash journalism, like to the most utmost example.
Yeah,
it's so bad there are cities in the UK that have banned the newspaper entirely because of their bullshit.
So citing the Sun or the political editor of the Sun as sources, to me, you might as well just say source. I made it the fuck up, because that's basically to me the same thing. Yeah, it may turn out to be true, but until I get another source, I don't trust it. And so it's kind of the same thing with like Doctor Who, when that sort of rumor starts floating around. I don't care who from the Sun you're citing the source from, or if you're citing the source as the Sun. I'm not gonna trust it. It could be any of the fucking papers from the Murdoch group, and I would feel the same way. But the Sun especially is the most egregious one of the lot.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, and it's why I've not brought up like just between the two of us, because like that's not a source. It's just hearsay. It's bullshit. Yep. So until I get like the Radio Times or whatever, like a trusted source for Doctor Who news, I'm not gonna even like engage with it, because it's just rumor mongering for the sake of rumors at a time when the show is vulnerable.
Yeah.
And there are absolutely people that want the show to fail and would actively push these rumors to devalue it.
For the Americans, it's almost like if, say, Trump died. We all wish. Just imagine that world for a second. Now,
I've thought about it quite frequently, but I'm not going to discuss how frequently.
Say Trump died, and the first source of information you saw was TMZ. You wouldn't believe it, right? You would not
No,
in a
no.
million fucking years. That is the Sun for UK information.
It's almost similar to like if, to go on the other side of the spectrum, not the other side, sort of the middle side of the spectrum, if Obama died and the first source to say it was Fox News.
Fox News, yeah, 100%.
Like, really? Are you gonna believe that just immediately when it's Fox News? Of course you're not.
No.
Now, if like, say,
CNN.
what's a trusted? I mean, even CNN is about these days.
They're more trustworthy than Fox. Not as much anymore,
Yeah.
but you know, they still have MSNBC maybe.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, MSNBC. That's when you start going, okay, this is real. I can believe this now.
Yeah. God.
But yeah, at the time of recording, that and we've had an announcement from Russell T that there's gonna be news at some point. He said within a week or two.
Mm-hmm.
So everything we've said right now may be proven to be bullshit.
Yeah.
Maybe there will be some truth to it. Right now, we don't know. By the time this episode's come out, you'll probably know.
Maybe this is coming out in
enough
like
to like look into it.
4 days, 3 days. So
okay, then maybe not.
Maybe not.
Right now, we basically have the only thing we know is that there's supposed to be a Christmas special for Doctor Who this year, written by Russell T Davies, whose current era has been quite spotty in terms of quality.
I mean, we've had Billy Piper as the Doctor question mark for a year, and
the biggest sort of news we've had on that front is that Ncuti Gatwa went on SNL UK to joke about it, and he basically said, I've got no fucking idea what's happening either on that front.
Which is like, yeah, haha, funny joke. But that also kind of came about because he opted to leave early.
Yeah.
And like, I totally understand his reasons to leave early, because he saw where the franchise was going to be, that it was going into some weird limbo state. And
some sort of fucking palaver.
Yeah. And so like, yeah, fair enough. Opt to get out, because it would mean he couldn't take any other projects while he was waiting for that to come about.
And he's a rising star.
Yeah. It's different from like David Tennant hanging on for 4 years or 5 years, or was it 6 years by the end of it, once they got through all of those extra specials or whatever?
It's really 4 years, but arguably 5 years, because he was first cast and like he regenerated from Eccleston like mid 2005ish and didn't leave until like New Year's Day 2010.
Ah, okay, so like 5-ish years.
4 to 5 years, yeah.
And like, he only did that because the show was at its height in that era. It was continuing. They were in a transitory state during the special era, just trying to figure out where to go next. But like, it was around. It was. I mean,
the thing is, the whole TV landscape was different then as well. Where like, everyone wasn't so dependent on like, oh, even while your season is airing, we don't know if the next one's been greenlit or not, because whatever executives or whatever don't want to take any risks anymore, so they want to like have surefire hits, so they're just gonna drag their heels on greenlighting something. It wasn't like that back then, where like you could guarantee Doctor Who would continue whether he was there or not.
Yeah, like when series 2 was on air, I'm pretty sure they were filming series 3, because it would air just that immediate next year, basically.
You go into the behind the scenes stuff on all the box sets, and you've got Russell T talking about like, so series 2 is currently airing, but we're now going to Cardiff so we can like get John Sim as the master.
Yeah. But yeah, it's
can't do that anymore.
I sort of, it kind of feels similar to where, I don't want to say Gundam's there right now, but Gundam's falling kind of to similar trends of just the anime landscape in general. Like, yeah, the Hathaway things are going on, and those are awesome. But like, we've had very few TV shows in the last however many, like maybe 10 years or something like that. We got Witch from Mercury, and we got G Quux, I don't know, the Anno one.
You what?
The one that Studio Kara did, that I don't know. Anyway, but those were like not of the normal trend of what Gundam was. Gundam is, as we are currently watching it now, roughly like 45 to 50 episode shows.
It's a lot of episodes, with a lot of story to cover.
Seed went to 100. Arguably didn't need to. It could have stopped after Seed. They didn't need to do Seed Destiny. One of the worst things they've ever done.
Jesus Christ.
But they're all pretty long. And then now it's like Witch from Mercury was 24 episodes, and that was split into two 12-episode seasons. And then G whatever, was 12. I want to say.
I hate that it's. I keep thinking for like a split second you're gonna say G Cuck. I'm like, why is it called that?
That was only 12 episodes, and you know, there hasn't been a sizable Gundam show in a while, and I would love them to do another one, whether it's an AU, whether they do something else in the Universal Century. It doesn't matter. It's just I want something that's more substantial than what we've had over the last 10 years. I think it probably is now, because I think the last full length one was Iron Blooded Orphans, I think. Yeah, a lot of franchises are just in this weird kind of state.
We're really in an era where like more people than ever are like clamoring for content, and yet the people that can make this content are so fucking dragging their heels and so reluctant to make that content.
Yeah.
It just kind of sucks as like a show enjoyer, or like a movie enjoyer, or just an anything media enjoyer, really.
Yeah, like there was a big Gundam panel recently at Comic-Con in London, and the most they announced was that for the 50th anniversary, which I need to remind people is 3 years away, they're doing a remaster of the original show, like a new 4K remaster. And I'm like, oh, that's your big announcement, that for the 50th anniversary in 3 fucking years, you're gonna do a remaster of the original show that you've remastered twice already? 3 times, technically, if you want to go for the fact that they remastered the original show onto Blu-ray, then they did the movie trilogy, and now they've done the movie trilogy in 4K, and now they're remastering the original series again. But when you did the Origin, you should have just fucking adapted the whole manga and retold the whole fucking story again if you were gonna do something like this. But no, would have made more fucking sense. But that's besides the point. It's just, yeah, there's a lot of things where like we're waiting on announcements for stuff, and then the stuff that we get so intangibly not like anything anyone wants or substantial or whatever.
Anything really, like. To sort of, sorry to bring it back to like Doctor Who again, but like I was sort of going back on like just looking through, you know, New Who, but like pre-Chibnall, and like just like going through like videos and just like retrospectives and about it and stuff, and like I got reminded of just how everywhere the show was during its 50th anniversary, and like they pulled out all the stops on it when they had almost like nothing, when Jenna Coleman was the only one contracted to appear on it. Like Moffat was still like, the showrunner at the time was still like going at all the stops. Like we had a series, half a series at the end of 2012, then a Christmas special, then the second half of that series in the first half of 2013, then a reveal of John Hurt as like another Doctor, and then just the build up for months with like trailers and a mini episode with Paul McGann, all building up to a theatrical release of a big massive episode that fundamentally changed the entire story of that plotline going forward. And it was just, I didn't realize at the time we were still in the golden era. Because even back then, people were still like, "Oh, we're not in the golden era anymore. That was Russell T Davis's first era."
Yeah.
And now I look to the future and I'm thinking, are we ever gonna get anything like that ever again for this show? Like, really? Like, when the 70th comes around, what do you think's gonna happen?
We could end up with something, but, you know, it's the thing that I think I've been saying since Rusty's first season came back.
I love that we call him Rusty now.
Rusty, yeah. Because he's like, it's like living with a bunch of rusty nails. When his like first season came back with Shooty and stuff, you know, marketing kneecaps aside, where they kept shooting themselves in different parts of the body with like, we're resetting the season numbers. Anyway,
because Disney is too scared for us to start with a season 14, even though it was just effectively series 14.
Mm-hmm. My big thing has been Rusty wrote like, what was it, 6 out of 8 of those episodes?
Yeah.
One of them was Moffat, was the other one of the episodes, and I can't remember.
One of the strongest episodes in the season,
Yeah.
but that's also because it is just Moffat writing a Moffat episode. It doesn't even have to be like. It's the only Moffat episode I can think of where you could just swap out Shooty's Doctor with like either Capaldi or Smith, and it would fit just as well.
Yeah. Can't remember who wrote the other one. Can't remember if it was established writer or not. But my point is, when you look at his first era, there were a lot of different writers, and you were seeing a lot of new blood. At that time, Moffat, Russell T Davis himself, and a couple other people who wrote on it. I can't remember off the top of my head. New blood to Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And that's arguably what the show needs now. It needs people who haven't written for the show before to come in and do new stuff. It's that same, we keep coming back to the same thing with Star Wars, where it's like you need people who can come in and do something new.
And to even repeat Star Wars again, like, admittedly, like Russell T Moffat and stuff, they were fans originally. They were like people, but they were people who like cut their teeth on stuff like in the wilderness years, writing like the novels and stuff, getting that experience before they then went on to be the engines of the soft reboot of the show. But like now we're seeing like the sort of decay of that with Rusty 2, where like, because he's such like a big fan, and because I'm gonna be honest, he's bought into his own hype at this point, being a decades-long successful writer. He's now of the idea that like, I can write whatever the hell I want, and it's just gonna be great. I'll put this reference to the classic series that nobody is gonna get but me. I'm gonna take these two villains, the Rani and Omega, two villains that people have been asking for decades, and barely utilize them, but I've put them in there, and people are gonna love it because I'm Russell T Davis and I can do whatever I want, and it's gold.
I'm gonna make a companion called Petrol. Wouldn't that be great? Fucking
I'm
Petrol.
still half and half on if he was just fucking with people or not, because I've rewatched that clip, and right before he says it, he does this extended sort of like he's like, okay, Russell, cook something up to say here because you're Russell T Davis and you're hilarious. I feel like I'm being so harsh on him. I think he is a good writer. Like, on the whole, there are still good episodes in that era. I will contest that. His finales are fucking awful, but he's still got some good stuff. I think and outside of Doctor Who, he's been very successful. I haven't seen It's a Sin, but I've heard great things. So, I don't know if it's just because he's not constrained at all, he's kind of gone crazy, or if Disney put some guidelines in that he just struggled to fit with, or it's some sort of combination of it, but it's just, you're past your prime in Doctor Who, mate. I'm sorry. You gotta go. Someone new needs to come in, and the problem is, there is no one new.
Yeah.
because no one's got the experience to really take on that mantle, and nobody would really be able to realistically get that experience because the situations that made the modern show's showrunner was in the wilderness years.
Yep. I actually wonder. I think I've just had a thought about who might be a good pick.
Is it?
But I don't know if they're still alive. Or at least one of
Oh
them.
no.
Oh, he died this year.
Who's it gonna be?
Doug Naylor. Or alternatively Rob Grant, the creators of Red Dwarf. Because I think they could have done a pretty decent job. I don't know if Doug Naylor's still working. I don't know if he still does stuff in the industry, but like, you know, I think he would have had a pretty good crack at being showrunner.
He is 70.
Yeah, but still, he has experience. And he's
True.
I think that would have been interesting. However, probably never going to happen.
No, I hate to say the only one that's like probably closest to maybe taking over. That would be like a logical bet, assuming they don't just get someone completely new, which I wouldn't be against.
Yeah.
But would be a writer called Pete McTighe. I'm not sure if like you've heard of.
I don't think I'm familiar.
He's mainly known for stuff within Doctor Who, but he's basically been he's written a few of the episodes in I think the Chibnall era, maybe the RTD2 era, but like his main thing he's been working on some of the side stuff around the last few years. So Tales of the TARDIS, he wrote some of that stuff. The season box sets announcements, they usually come with like these mini episodes with them to announce them, and he writes them. He's basically like the only logical successor I can think of. And the thing is, he's never really got any, as far as I can tell, he's not got any show running experience, which I think would be the big problem. But like as a writer, I think he's fine, but at the same time, it's not really enough to really gauge on how he would do on like a big role.
Yeah. This is where they bring back Moffat again, and we just get stuck in a cycle.
I love Moffat's like era. I'm a bit of a defender of him in a lot of places, but like, I think I'd rather die. I think I would just rather the show go in the wilderness years too at that point, because we can't go through this cycle. It's not healthy. McTighe co-wrote The War Between the Land and the Sea, which I still haven't seen.
Oh yeah, that side thing that they did. The Unit show. The Unit wasn't called Unit.
Yeah. It was known for a while as just the Unit spin-off until it came out. I hear it's good, mostly. But I think, sadly, I have to say I just haven't had the interest in seeing it, which I think speaks for a lot of people, sadly. Yeah. I think it also hurts they really didn't market it as being connected to Doctor Who, unless you already know. Which, arguably a strength, but at the same time...
Yeah.
Not a good sign for the show where you have to distance it.
No, 100%. Although remember, like Torchwood was technically just Doctor Who backwards.
True. Some of Pete McTighe's credits is that he did War Between the Land and the Sea. He did Tales of the TARDIS. He wrote some episodes for the 15th series. An episode that was fine, I think. It had some problems, but I don't know if that was just because of wider series-wide stuff. But he did also do 2 Chibnall era episodes, one of which was Kerblam, which not one of my favorites. Amazon Warehouse episode.
Oh, okay.
Where the main message is that, oh no, the system's completely fine, it's just bad people that are bad.
I remember so little of the Chibnall era at this point.
Yeah, and Praxis, which I cannot remember.
That name sounds familiar. Praxis.
Praxis, yeah.
Doctor Who. Episode.
I have no memory of this episode.
6th episode of the 12th season.
Sorry, dear listener, we're just sort of looking through stuff right now.
I do not remember this episode whatsoever. They go to Peru, Hong Kong, and Madagascar apparently, or that's where things are happening. Then there's stuff about microplastics. The Indian Ocean garbage patch. I don't remember this episode.
No, neither do I, and that's kind of surprising because I at least remember a good chunk of Chibnall's episodes. I didn't like them, but I remember them. Did I watch this episode? I should have. I must have.
Oh, so Pete McTighe does have experience as like a larger role. Just on Neighbours, though. The Australian.
That's not inspiring
soap opera.
confidence.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. Anyway, we've been going on for a while now about
we have been rambling
these. So before we end up with another punching bag example, I think this brings to a conclusion this catch up of what we've been doing, which is we really only talked about the Star Wars movies, which is fine, but
barely a catch up. We didn't even talk about how we went to see Top Gun again.
Yeah, we did it. I've read so many books this year, and I've barely talked about any of them. I went to see Akira again.
Maybe we'll do another one of these catch up episodes soonish.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll wrap this up because it's been nearly 90 minutes. So yeah, we'll see you guys next week where we're talking about the first half of Zeta Gundam. Yeah, so look forward to that. You'll see the Tears of Type. Goodbye.
Bye.